Now, what you just saw there was me moving around buildings using movement techs such as wall hopping, door bouncing, super gliding, and as well as bee hopping, I guess. But what we're going to talk about today is basically all of the movement tech that I am aware of in Apex and how you can practice these a lot easier than just doing them regularly inside of games. Simplest way to practice majority of these would be to just go into firing range, and then you have a bunch of walls and stuff you can climb. So basically, you got all you need for a majority of the movement attacks. There might be some like door bouncing that you might not be able to do, but door bouncing is basically just the same as wall bouncing, except you do it on a door, and it's more used to like surprising your enemies. Now, what I'm going to talk about is all of what you're seeing here on the screen right now. You got all of the timestamps, so if you want to go skip forward, if you're rewatching or anything, you can do that. Now we're just going to start off with wall bouncing because it's simply the easiest one out of all of them. And you want to just jump at a wall and then time another jump input right as you're about to hit the wall. And then you can combo that into like 180s and stuff. You can also combo this into tab strafing. You can also use tab strafing to redirect yourself into a wall and then do a wall bounce. And it's just a really flexible movement tech. Now, this is a movement tech that works for both keyboard and mouse as well as controller. But if you're on keyboard and mouse, I would highly suggest you bind either scroll up or down for jump, as it's just a really good thing to do, and then bind either of them for W when we talk about tab strafing. Now, as for tab strafing, this does not work for controller, sadly, since it uses the scroll wheel on keyboard and mouse. Now, the best way to do this would be in firing range with the Octane jump pad or Octane Q. And basically what you want to do is as soon as you leave the ground, either with a jump pad or by simply jumping, you then want to strafe as you normally would with A and D, as well as applying scroll wheel up or down, depending on what you bound it to before. Now, there's a bind that you can set up inside of your autoexec for Apex, and that's going to allow you to have both jump and W on the same scroll wheel input, which is going to allow you to practice this a lot easier. And it might be better to have that in the beginning, but as you learn how to tab strafe more, I would highly just suggest you move on to having jump and W on different inputs. We talked about tab strafing and how that interacts with the jump pad, the initial speed boost, and as well as the double jump. But there's a few more things that you can do or that you can know about the jump pad if you ever need to use these. You tab strafe onto the jump pad so that you don't have to run around to the side and then you have to take it. You can just do it in one go. You jump, tab strafe, hit the pad, and then you're out. You can also melee while holding S, or not really while holding S, but you melee and then you hold S, which will send you flying backwards instead of forward. And that can be quite useful if you're like pinned down in a corner or something and you want to get out. You can use that. I'm just going to throw some things in here that some people might not know. When you hit the ground, you get a slight movement speed penalty that decays. You can actually cancel this by either meleeing the wall right next to you, or if you have a wall, you can also cancel the downward velocity by simply like touching or climbing the wall like I just did there. This is gonna stop you from getting that movement speed penalty as you hit the ground. Now, if you ever feel like you want to pick up Pathfinder and start playing him, then I'm going to show you what a grapple is not, I repeat, not supposed to look like. This is not what you want. Definitely not. So, to get the most out of your grapple, you want to, like, really try to swing all the way around your anchor point and just get the most out of your grapple. Do keep in mind that this comes with a downside of having a longer cooldown, so if you want to keep a short cooldown, then you might want to cancel the grapple earlier rather than keeping, say, more move speed for a longer distance. Next thing is a super grapple, and what this is basically is it's just going to send you like a lot higher than ground level. It's going to give you a short like burst in speed when you initially reel in the grapple, and how you trigger this is by having the grapple connect when it's on its way back to you, instead of like you normally would. You would shoot the grapple and then it would hit the object. Now this, you would want it to shoot out and then it would reel in and then hit, and then you get this little effect. Now this is probably the most common Pathfinder technique that you can use, which is catapulting. And basically what you want to do is just shoot your grapple with the maximum range into the ground, and then right as it hits, you want to time a jump input, which is going to send you flying in an arc around the anchor point. And this is very commonly used when someone's pushing with Pathfinder or stuff like that. Now, one last thing about Pathfinder, which is basically the same technique or the same mechanic that's in the catapult technique, and it's basically just shooting your grapple right down into the ground below you and then jumping as soon as it hits, which basically gives you a double jump, and that can be used to either get over the wall like you just saw me do, or you can use it in a fight. Like if you have a Mastiff, for example, Taxi2G likes to do that a lot. He shoots his Mastiff, and then as soon as he shoots, he does one of these and basically double jumps above the guy, shoots him in the back, and yeah. If you didn't already know, then you can do zipline dancing, or basically zipline jumping back and forth, to be a lot harder to hit. But you can also use tab strafing like we talked about earlier on a zipline. So when you attach with E or whatever you have, you can then do a zipline tab strafe, which attaches you to the zipline and then you strafe off of the zip. Now the last two things about ziplines before we move on is super jumping and hyper jumping. So normal super jumping is done by basically interacting with the zipline and then jumping as soon as you interact with it, which is basically going to give you a double jump. And what separates this from hyper jumping is that hyper jumping requires you to interact with the zipline twice, and it's basically going to give you a triple jump instead of a normal double jump in height. And this was explained by Mogi Sniper in a video that he made, so I'll leave the link in the description if you want to go check that out. But unfortunately I have no way as to explaining how the hyper jump works. Now, last thing about Pathfinder ziplines is that you can put these in a 45-degree angle or something like that. You want to have them be more steep than just horizontal. So what this is going to do is it's going to send you flying once you ride to the very end of it, and like send you flying with a lot of velocity, which allows for repositioning. It allows you for setting up a bunch of these ziplines around in Capital, so you can like move around and not have to just run. You can literally fly. Now there's this kind of niche thing that you can use if you want to. How you do it is basically by holding down D if you want to move right, or A if you want to move left, and you have to look like a bit backwards when you do it. And basically this gives you a wall surf. Last but not least, we're going to talk about super gliding, which was recently discovered to be quite useful. So I decided to learn it, and I have to agree, it's very useful. Basically, it allows you to reposition a lot quicker. It gives you outplay potential in close range fights, since you can just super glide around or like past a person and they have to do a 180. Whereas you're ready for it to happen and they're not. So it's quite useful. Now, the reason why you should want to learn this is because opposing to just normal sliding right after a climb, super gliding gives you a lot more momentum initially when you head it. So instead of just sliding alongside of the object that you slid off of, you're flying in an arc that is very hard to hit. Like, what super gliding is also really good for is, let's say you're like in a corner, you've just finished a reload or something, and you want a wide swing on the guy you're shooting at, then you can perform a super glide, slide right past the guy, get a few free shots off of that, and confuse the hell out of him. Now, as for super gliding, how you want to do this is by using space and C, at least on keyboard and mouse. I don't know how you do this on controller, but that's the best way I found how to do it, is because you just use your thumb for both of the inputs. But do keep in mind that space has to come before crouch. Now that's it for me and the video. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you learned something that you can put to use inside of your normal games. Might be able to share this video with someone if they want to learn any of these movement techniques, since I made this video with the purpose being basically a handbook of all the movement techniques that I know. And yeah, just want to say a big thanks to Moki Sniper for posting the content that he makes. Most of the stuff that I use today is stuff that I've learned from him, and that I've practiced, put together into my playstyle. So I'll leave his channel in the description if you want to go check him out. And also, if you want to ask any questions down in the comments, I'll try to answer them with the best of my ability so that you can fully understand all of these movement techniques. And once again, thank you so much for watching.